It started when I moved into a small rental house in a quiet part of town. I was fresh off a messy breakup, trying to rebuild. The place was old, sure, but charming in its own way. Hardwood floors, ivy growing along the brick, a creaky old porch. It had character. The landlord gave me a good deal because, as she said, most people don't like the layout. I didn't ask what that meant. It was during my second night that I noticed the door. At the end of the hallway between the two bedrooms was a third door, one I hadn't noticed during the initial walkthrough. It blended into the wall, painted the same beige with no knob, just a keyhole that looked wrong, like it was too old to be original, like it didn't belong in a house from the 1960s. At first, I ignored it, assumed it was just an old maintenance closet. But every night after 2 a.m., I'd wake up and I'd hear something behind it. At first, it was soft, a rustling, like paper dragging against the wood. Then scratching. Then, faintly, tapping. Not rhythmic like an animal, more deliberate, like someone drumming their nails. I told myself it was rats, or the pipes, or my imagination. But one night, I pressed my ear to the door. There was breathing on the other side. Slow, heavy, wet breathing. And a voice. "I know you're there." I jumped back. My heart went into overdrive. I stood in the hallway frozen, staring at the door. It didn't open. It didn't move. But I swear, I felt it. Like the door was aware of me, watching me. I slept on the couch that night with every light on. The next day, I asked the landlord about the door. She avoided eye contact and just said, "Don't worry about that, it's sealed, has been for years." "But what's behind it?" I asked. She paused. Then, "Nothing that concerns you." I thought about moving out right then, but I'd already paid first and last month's rent, and honestly, I was too stubborn to let a weird door scare me off. That night, the door was open an inch. Not wide, just enough to see the edge of darkness behind it. I hadn't heard it open, I hadn't touched it, but it was open. I shoved a chair against it, jammed a knife in the frame, and tried to convince myself I'd imagined everything. At 2:13 a.m., the lights in my house flickered and went out. I grabbed my phone for a flashlight. Walked down the hallway, shaking. The door was wide open. Inside, it wasn't a closet. It was a narrow stairwell going down, way down. The air was cold, damp. I should have left. But something made me walk to the top of the stairs and shine my phone down. I saw something at the bottom. It wasn't moving. It was just standing there. Pale, very tall. Its arms were too long, and its fingers were wrapped around the bottom step like... I slammed the door and pushed the chair back against it. Called the landlord the next morning. Told her everything. She didn't sound surprised. Just said, "Did you look down the stairs?" I didn't answer. "You're not supposed to look down the stairs." I moved out that day, but I can't sleep in any house now without checking every door at least twice, because I still hear it every night at 2:13 a.m. A slow knock, and then the whisper,
"You already opened the door. Just waiting for you to open it again."
I moved into the apartment because it was cheap. That's it. No illusions of comfort, just a one-bedroom above a closed-down deli on the east side of town. Peeling walls, radiators that hissed like snakes, but the price was right, and after losing my job, I didn't have many options. The only other occupied unit was directly above me, Unit 3B. I never met the person who lived there, never saw them come or go. But I heard them. Every single night. At first, it was footsteps. Slow, dragging steps across the floorboards. Then the sound of furniture scraping, like they were dragging a chair from one side of the room to the other, sometimes for hours. I mentioned it offhand to the landlord. He frowned and said, no one's been in 3B for over 6 months. I laughed, thinking he was messing with me, but he wasn't. He showed me the records. The last tenant was an older man who disappeared without a trace. Left his furniture, clothes, even his wallet just vanished. The place had been locked up since. He offered to let me see it. We went up the next afternoon. 3B was thick with dust. The air smelled like wet wood and something sweet, but wrong. Mold, maybe, or something rotting under the floorboards. Everything was covered in sheets, but the chair, the one I'd heard dragging, was sitting in the center of the room, bare. Its legs were scraped down to nubs, like it had been dragged over the floor again and again. There were deep grooves in the wood beneath it, circles. That night, I lay awake in bed, listening to the steps start again. This time, they stopped right above my head. I swear I could hear breathing, low, rasping, hungry. I moved my bed into the living room the next day. The noises got worse. Tapping from the ceiling, scratching, a voice whispering gibberish that made no sense but still chilled my blood. It always came from directly above, always just past midnight. I started recording the audio. When I played it back, I noticed something that hadn't been clear live. There was a second voice, quieter, whispering behind the louder one. It was whispering my name. I stopped sleeping. My hands shook all the time. I started seeing shadows where there were none, until one night I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight, went upstairs, and broke the lock on 3B. The room was exactly as we'd left it, except the chair. It was facing the door now, and sitting in it was someone. Tall, thin, skin like wax paper stretched too tight over bone. It didn't move, didn't look at me. It just sat there, twitching slightly, like it was vibrating at a frequency I couldn't hear. I stepped back. Its head jerked toward me, not turned, jerked, like its neck was made of wires. And then it smiled. No teeth, just black gums, as if the mouth had never been meant to open. It whispered something. I couldn't understand it at first, but I swear it said, "You've been so noisy." I slammed the door and ran. When the landlord checked the next day, the apartment was empty. Chair, gone. Grooves in the floor, gone. No trace I'd ever been there. He asked if I was feeling okay. I left a week later, slept in my car until I found a new place. But now, wherever I go, there's always footsteps above me, even when I'm on the top floor.
I used to work overnight shifts at a small AM radio station just outside of town, one of those back road frequencies that only truckers and insomniacs listen to. Mostly I played pre-approved tracks and read school closings or weather updates. Boring, lonely work, but quiet. Until it wasn't. There was this one night, a storm rolling in, thunder shaking the glass in the booth, when I started hearing static bleed into the channel. At first I thought it was the weather messing with the tower. Then I realized it wasn't random. It had rhythm, a pulse, almost like breathing. Then faintly behind the crackling static, I heard a voice, low, male, garbled but unmistakable. It wasn't part of the programming. It wasn't coming from my mic, and yet somehow it was broadcasting live. I froze, looked over at the monitor. Channel was locked. No one had hacked in.
But the voice kept going. I see you. Just like that, 3 words, followed by a wet, coughing laugh. I cut the feed and sat in silence. The storm outside had stalled. No thunder, no wind, just thick silence pressing in from every side of the building. Even the fluorescent lights seemed dimmer. Then I noticed it. On the wall-mounted clock in the booth, it was 3:13 a.m. Every single hand was moving backwards. I stood up. My gut told me to leave, go, run, but I had the stupid sense of duty, and I needed the job. I reset the board, played a pre-recorded weather alert to fill the dead air. As it played, I noticed something on the waveform monitor. Something impossible. There was a signal, embedded beneath the audio, a whisper track. I isolated it, played it back. It said my full name, over and over again, faster each time. I slammed the laptop shut. That's when all the studio lights went out. The red live sign on the wall glowed the only color in the dark. And then, just above me, I heard it. Scratching. In the ceiling tiles. I backed toward the door, shaking, reaching for the emergency flashlight under the desk. The scratching followed, like something crawling on the inside of the tiles, trying to track my movements. Then something fell from the ceiling. A tooth. Perfect. Human. Still bleeding. I ran out into the hallway. Everything was silent, except from Studio B down the corridor, where no one should have been. I saw a faint glow under the door. I heard the broadcast again, my voice on the air, only I wasn't in the booth. I pushed the door open and saw myself, sitting at the mic, wearing my clothes, talking calmly into the microphone. But the thing in the chair didn't move right. Its shoulders twitched unnaturally. Its mouth opened wider than mine ever could. Its eyes, black holes.
It turned to me, and in a voice deeper than anything human, said,
"You should never have listened."
Then all the lights went out. When I came to, it was morning. The station was silent, power restored, everything normal, no trace of the other version of me, no tooth, no playback of the voice. The manager said I must have fallen asleep. Call it a burnout. Gave me a week off. But I know what I saw. Now, every time I hear static on the radio, my heart stops. Because once in a while, hidden deep in the noise, I hear it again. That voice. Still whispering, still broadcasting. And last night, on my own car radio, I heard myself say, "I see you."